to me enough is enough. They just wanna hurt us, bring us down, bring us down. Enough is enough. We won't let them hurt us, bring us down, bring us down. Enough is enough. You won't bring us down. Bring us down. Enough is enough. They just wanna hurt us. Bring us down. Bring us down. Enough is enough. We won't let them hurt us. Bring us down. Bring us down. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Hey guys, welcome back to Indie Wrestling Corner with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host as always, the queen of the indies, Tiffany. Damn, it's been a while since I did that. The last interview I did was 2022. So you're my first of 2023 because I'm not going to consider my indie talks an actual Under the Rope series because it was an Indie Talks episode. So welcome my good friend, Ethan Scott. How are ya?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I'm hyped. I didn't realize I was the first one of 2023. So
Yes. Yes. So I had we had Kylon King, we had Trayvon, we had Dante. So we had kind of a clump sum of the tag team wrestling that's been hitting all of New England pretty much at the Chokeslam Chronicles. So that was kind of like my first podcast of 2023, but that's, like I said, that was the Indie Talk series. This is my Under the Ropes. So yes, you're my first interview of 2023. Awesome. So welcome. Awesome. So if you guys have watched a lot of my backstage Indie Talks, especially up at Grind, Ethan's actually been in the background. We've chatted in the back as well over there, so maybe that's where you have seen him if you haven't seen him before. Yeah, so guys, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that share button. If you guys got questions for Ethan, please feel free, drop it into the chat and all that fun stuff. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. So awesome. So did you have a good New Year?
I did. Surprisingly, got home before midnight because you saw me, I was at Restival. I was there for the Grind show, stuck around for Limitless, and then me and my carload head back up to Maine, and we got like back to the area like 11:50-ish, so I got to walk through my home one last time of 2022, and then I crashed as soon as I hit midnight. I'm like, I'm tired, I can't.
I feel that. Loving the chat. We got Captain Dave going on. What's going on, Captain Dave? How are ya? Levi Spades in the chat. He says the man himself, Ethan.
Hey, Levi.
Awesome. All right. So what I like to do on this podcast, I like to go a little bit back to basics. So let's learn a little bit about you. Let's talk about like the background of like, how you got into ring announcing.
So when I first got involved in wrestling, my main goal was to be a professional wrestler. Clearly that didn't happen. But I was working for this company, IWE in Maine, no longer exists. But I was doing camera work, ring crew, primarily doing sound, and I still do sound to this day. I had been in wrestling like up to, I think, 4 years at that point. And then I started doing ring announcing because our guy that we had at the time, he would come down from Canada. Well, he had travel issues, couldn't come down. And they just said, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? And I'm like, I'll give it a try, because I've been around everybody for like 4 years at this point, and I know everyone. Shouldn't be too hard. So I just sat behind the sound table with the microphone, announced everybody. They liked what I did. I kept doing it. Um, and after a couple shows, Randy asked me to do one of the, want to say it was one of the last few shows of Limitless in Orono. It was Do What You Love and Fuck the Rest, which I don't believe is on IWTV, but it was kind of like a little tryout show for a bunch of people. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started with ring announcing. And then I'm where I'm at right now.
Yeah, which we'll go into, but more love in this chat. Jack's in the chat. He says hi to me and you. What's going on? Malik says the voice of Maine wrestling. So
Hey, Malik.
there you go. There you go. Awesome, Captain Dave. Quiet on the home front. I think that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. Silver's in the chat. Says, hey, Ethan. What's going on? Thanks for joining us as well. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about this. I've had plenty of ring announcers on this podcast. All right. Like, you know, just to name a few, like we have Rich Palladino, we've had Evil J, like Shane Fair, Chad Spectacular, Larry. These are just some of the ring announcers that are out there. And again, like these are all people that I've had on this podcast. You feel free, go back, check those out. So, you know, how would you describe to like, you know, make yourself different, you know, cause that's like, everybody's got personality, you know, what makes you different?
So I could be wrong about this, but I feel like how I announce my voice is a bit gruffer. Like when I do certain names or like when certain inflictions, some people like project outward more, and like I feel like I growl a bit, and I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I do it, but it's just because I listen to a bunch. I listen to a bunch of metal, and and with the people that I watched and kind of got inspired by, you know, Tony Chimbel, because I used to watch SmackDown all the time as a kid. Randy Carver when he was a ring announcer, and Rich, I mean, he's my mentor. But that's just one thing I think that separates me a little bit, is I'm a bit like gruffer in a good way, like you can still understand what I'm saying. But I think that's what would make me stand out. It's the only thing I can think of that I do that I don't really hear a lot of people do.
Right. And that's like the thing, right? Like you have to stand out, you know? So like what makes you like completely different than, you know, being somebody else. And we had people on here like Chad Spectacular like looks up to, you know, Larry Legend, and like we tell the joke of, you know, he had the Slim Jim, so he used to like walk in and be like, get your Slim Jims, and then you have Larry Legend talking about big juicy hot dogs. And
I've watched ICW. I feel like I've definitely heard him say that a handful of times.
What is your big juicy hot dog of ring announcing?
I don't think I have. I don't think I have that. I don't think I have that anyway. Yeah, I can't think of anything I do like that.
Well, much love over to Larry and much love to Chad, you know, and I'm sure like you saw him also too with you know, with the New Year's with, you know, going on, that ICW was up at Worcester, which was pretty freaking awesome. And then the IWTV 100, like so great.
Yeah, I was in the crowd for the for IWTV Class of 22. And seeing Larry in person as opposed to just watching him, it's completely different. Like he still carries that like attention and presence about him, and it's like even more so in person. It's really cool to see.
So much love for Larry. Love him so much. All right. So, okay. So what is one of your favorite things, you know, about your profession?
I just love how I've been able to travel. Like granted I haven't gone far. Furthest I've gone to is Connecticut, but I never thought I would be traveling as a ring announcer in general, because I feel like that's not really that. I feel like very few get a chance to do that. Because if you told me when I first started doing ring announcing, like, oh, you'll be heading to Massachusetts and you'll be heading to Connecticut and doing all this stuff, I'd be like, yeah, right. Like, well, I'm just gonna stay in Maine. Like, the wrestlers travel, I stay put. But just being able to say I've gone to all these states and do these things, it's super neat.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Like to go and travel out there. It's nuts, and I like to see you guys all at different like promotions and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to travel more. I just don't have a vehicle, which is the hard part. So I gotta like cross my fingers one of my buddies has room in their car and I can just hop in if they're going out of state.
Yeah, but like, hey, I'll just chip in for some gas or whatever.
Yeah.
But that seems to be the thing, right? Like that you got to get into the car with pretty much everybody, and you
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Opportunities come a knocking. Jeff's in the chat. What is up, Queen Ethan? Who is your favorite wrestler growing up, and who is your favorite indie wrestler now?
So, favorite wrestler growing up, I'm gonna pick 3. So at first, when I first got into wrestling, it was Batista because he was a monster. Like there was no one, I'd never seen anyone like Batista before. Next would be Undertaker, because how could you not like Undertaker? Because I started watching in 05, 06. So I was like, that era of the Undertaker like will always stand out to me. And then Bobby Lashley, because at my first house show, I got to see Boogeyman and Bobby Lashley before they made their televised debuts, but it was Lashley versus Regal, and I'm like little at this point, and I'm screaming and hollering for him because I know Regal's the bad guy, so I'm cheering for him. And he goes over to the ropes and he points at me and smiles, and my mom's like, "Oh, did you see that?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So that's why Bobby's one of my favorites. Even now, like I'm so happy he's back in WWE. As for favorite indie wrestler, that's really
Careful.
hard.
Careful, they might come at you.
Yeah, because depending on who I say, the others might get mad. I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna do multiple. I'm gonna throw up 2. I'm gonna say Rip, because seeing Rip as like knowing Rip as long as I have, like seeing him evolve and seeing what he's doing now, it's amazing. And just I feel like there's no one quite like him right now in the indies, because he kind of has that old school feel of like Bruiser Brody, like the old school Hosses, but he does it his own way.
Right.
Because like I can't think of many big scary dudes who will sing and dance to their own music. And the second one would probably be Beef, Big
Yeah.
Beef, because like dude he is wild. Like for as big as he is super quick. Like the beef bomb he does into the ropes, it's scary every time, but seeing him do it and hit is just it's so cool. So those 2 might be some of my favorite indie wrestlers.
Oh, there's so many.
There are, and now I wonder how many people I just made mad, and they're
No!
gonna be like, "So I'm not your favorite, right?" I'm like, "Oh shit."
Oh, do better. No, I'm only kidding. No, it's unbelievable crazy like how the indie scene is, and this is why I do these interviews, because you never know, like you never know who's gonna get signed, and you get to learn a little bit about the back end of these wrestlers before whatever they become into, because it's amazing. I mean, I'm over 200 interviews between wrestlers, refs, ring announcers, and everything. It's just there's so many people that I still want to have on this podcast. It's just there's a lot. So.
There's so much wrestling out there, and it's crazy to think, because like I feel like if you only pay attention to your local area, or you only pay attention to what's on TV, you're missing so much.
Yeah. Because
there's so much wrestling like that probably I've never even heard of out there, and it's insane. it's crazy to think of how many people are out there.
It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Like, and I'm someone that travels up, like up to Massachusetts. I've came up to Limitless. Like I had like a whole bunch and I still have so many bucket lists, and I'm here in New York, and I've only scratched like a little bit of places that I've been to. So again, if there's something you don't like, I promise you there's something you will like in wrestling.
Like, I'll tell people who are like, they'll be upset with whatever's on TV, whether it be WWE or AEW. It's like, just watch indie wrestling, because whatever you're looking for, you're going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might not be close to your area, but there are ways to watch it and you'll be happy. Like I always try to convince people to watch indie wrestling as much as possible.
Isn't it amazing with all the options that we have now, like that weren't there back then? I mean, like I didn't even know indie wrestling was around. And now you have like all these apps between IWTV Fight, things are on Twitch, things are on Facebook, things are on High Spots. It's insane.
Yeah, because I remember in high school when I was looking up indie wrestling or just looking up wrestling that wasn't WWE, the big three that stuck out to me at the time were Ring of Honor, CZW, and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And I noticed that they all shared like roughly the same roster, and that like blew my mind a little bit because I was always so used to the Raw and SmackDown thing where if you worked for one place, you only worked for one place. But like we're so spoiled now, like
Yeah.
especially nowadays compared to like a couple years, like even just like maybe 10 years ago.
Right. It's nuts. Like you see me, like I'll post pictures on social that I'll have like the television on. I'll have something on my laptop, my iPad. I'm trying to like keep up with everything. It's nuts. So actually, let's talk a little bit because I want to talk about some of the promotions that you work on. I love all these freaking promotions up there. New England scene's so hot for wrestling. So let's start with Grind. We've had a bunch of people from Grind onto this podcast. You guys have seen backstage stuff with me as well, so you can definitely check that out. So you and me, we've talked about this too, and like even like backstage interviews, like there's nothing like Grind. The fan base is absolutely amazing. The roster is like, I recommend Grind to so many people that I think that they would just love it. Like it's just really good wrestling, and I'm not saying that not everything else is. This is like one of the things that like really stuck me with Grind, and I'm like, damn, we're getting like sometimes like 10-15 minute matches that are hard hitting, just fantastic. So talk to us a little bit about Grind. Talk to us about like maybe some of your favorite moments, anything working there.
Grind, when I was asked to do Grind, it was an honor because I remember overhearing Rip at one point talking about how he was going to be starting up something, but I didn't want to like go up and like intrude and be like, hey man, if you need a ring announcer, like if it happens, it happens, because I'm shy and socially awkward. I didn't want to impose. But then they reach out to me and they're like, hey, we'd love to have you at Grinds. Like, can you make this date? And I said, absolutely. And it's nothing. It's not like anything in New England. From its production with the entrance and the lights and the ring to its roster, I have heard it described as, Hoss fights and WCW cruiserweights, which is very, very true. Is you look at a lot of indie shows and they always have like the black curtain entrance. They usually have like a lot of them they can look quite similar. There's no way you can confuse Grind with anything else, because it's very heavily inspired with Japanese wrestling. Like, I mean, you just look at the corners. They're the big Japanese pads. They're not like what we're used to here in the States. And they make you know that this is a Grind show, that this can't be confused with anything else. And they're doing something that no one else is doing in New England, and it's catching a lot of eyes. Because if you even look at the Restival, the only shows that really look different were obviously ICW because they had the cage,
Right.
and then you had Grind because Grind had the entranceway and the guardrails. So like it sticks out visually, and just like you said with the roster, it's got some like amazing people that I'm so glad are in New England, and I want to see in New England more. Like the first time I actually got to know Ryan Mooney was with the Grind shows. I had seen him before, but I didn't realize it when Ring of Honor came to Maine years ago. It was him versus AG in a dark match,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize that was Ryan Mooney. But I'm so glad he's in New England because he's so good. Like his match with Gary J, like I think really got everyone's eyes on him, because god damn, he just took a beating,
Right.
but he gave it back just as hard. Like God.
I hear ya. So good. So absolutely good. Yeah. So definitely check out Grind. I mean, I pushed that promotion so much. I love it. You know, I can't wait to come up again. The running joke is I have to come get the dumplings that are down the block because there's this really great Japanese place that I was telling Delmy when I got there the last time. Like the first time I came up, I was like, I went there. It was so good. I had to go back. I was like, they got ramen. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast with a couple of people. And apparently, like the next time that I come up to Grind, like we're all going. Like,
Okay.
so definitely go check out the dumplings down the block, whatever. Hey, good cop, bad cop, what's going on? Thanks for coming on in here. So, but yeah, definitely like what you said. I'm glad that it started to catch a lot of momentum, and I'm glad a lot of people are starting to like check it out. If you haven't, please go check it out. Really, really good. So let's talk another company that you work for, Blitzkrieg. Like this was like a bucket list for me too, that I was like, I hit like all my New England promotions last year. I was like, I have to. And this was definitely one of my favorite things is the entrance. I love the stairs. Give me some Christmas lights. I'm all about it. You know, if you guys want pierogies.
Oh, the food there is so good. The food there is so good.
But I got to come and see. I feel like it was like the best choice that I made was them versus Limitless.
Oh, that was a
Limitless
blast.
is already like all up in Maine. It's a good like 6.5 hours from me in New York. But I had so much fun the 2 days there. But really, really fun. So talk to us a little bit about working for them again. Anything that comes to mind with this promotion, favorite moments.
So with Blitzkrieg, each promotion I work for, they stand out in my mind. Like I said, with Grind, they're doing something different than everyone else is doing. Blitzkrieg is like the big party promotion because it feels like a party every time you're there. They want everyone having a good time. Like you said with the entryway, like the stairs add so much. Because like you see like a CPA's entrance, he'll come out and go hi, and then he'll come down and then he'll hide behind the banner and then pop out and go yeah. Like it's different than everywhere else too. Like just because of what they have for a setup, and like they have a blast. They always bring in some like really cool like former WWE guys. Like sadly I couldn't be there, but they had like Eric Redbeard. And seeing him next to Perry and knowing how tall Perry is and him towering over Perry, it's like, good God, you're a monster. Like, you're huge.
And them killing Dante.
Dante gets in the ring with like any monster. It's just done. I feel so bad. But yeah, like they're the party promotion. Like the fan base is very vocal and really gets into it, and even they kind of have their own inside jokes. Like anytime the ref counts 2, they'll yell 2 sweet, and Joanna who really helps with that place is like kind of gave me the ins and outs of like how the crowd's like, and it's so much fun. I want to go back down so bad soon because I miss that place because everyone there is super cool.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And then like I had fun is when they had the tryouts at the Limitless versus Blitzkrieg, which was cool because you had all the wrestlers sitting at their merch tables that were watching, and they were popping and going nuts and getting involved with some of the tryouts that were going, like Joey Silver, Sweet Cheeks. I love him. I know him forever. He's been on this podcast like 3 times. Like he comes out and then he's throwing candies, you know, at them, and they're like, okay, like over here, give us some candy. So
those trials were fun. I hadn't seen Joey in a long time because the first time I met him was with Matt and Muscle when they did their a show right before the world shut down. So it'd been a long time, and yeah, like I felt so bad that day because I butchered so many names. Because I think I'm so used to like knowing all the matches that are like just seeing them getting posted. I know everybody who's going to be there from what's announced on social media, so I can kind of practice everyone's name a little bit before the show. And there were so many people that were brand new to me, and I'm like, I'm gonna fuck some names up, and I apologize to everybody. I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm horrible with names, which is not good because I'm a ring announcer. But like I didn't have much time to practice because I was trying to get everybody's info. But those were so much fun. Like when the handyman guy came out, I have that entire wall of wrestlers popped huge as soon as he started fixing the turnbuckle, and I'm like, That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like that was so funny.
Yeah, these are fun. These, I think they put them up on YouTube, correct? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're all on YouTube. Like you had, and there was a great little mesh of everything because there was a lot of comedy, there was a lot of just serious wrestling, there was a lot of just hard hitting stuff, and a lot of people showing off what they could do. And it was a good mix of everything because the three brands that were represented there were Limitless, Grind, and Blitz, and everybody there kind of fitted at least somewhere within those three.
Yeah. Definitely great. Definitely check that out. Again, I really like that promotion as well. Fine. I want to come back. I got to get back up there. It's just there's so many promotions. This is the bad thing about me. That's why I'm Queen of the Indies. I'm all over the place. So, but Levi in the chat says Grind is definitely one of the best upstart promotions, and it's so different. It makes it captivating to watch. Definitely. Everything pro wrestling. What's going on? He said, "Hey Tiff, hey Ethan. Definitely give our good friend Conrad some love too. He's got you covered with WWE, AW games, all that fun stuff, so go give him some love." So all right, so let's talk about one of the big ones. Let's talk Limitless and Let's Wrestle. Okay, so again, big main promotion. This was a bucket. Again, I still want to get to Let's Wrestle. That's probably about 8 hours for me. Okay, but Limitless was something that I wanted to come before the pandemic, and didn't happen. So I'm so glad that I finally made it work, that I went to a K-Doc show on a Friday, and then I took the ride up to Limitless in the summer. I love I love everything about that. It's like I got out of my car, fans recognized me. I was shocked. I was like, "Oh, you listen to me? Cool." So hi all the people up in Maine. Randy and me have always been in like contact, so I was so glad to meet Randy. The fans, they are nuts. I love it. They're loud and proud and all into wrestling, and that's what wrestling should be. Like, oh my god, so good. So, but again, Let's Wrestle, where they have their venue, is pretty too, so that's why I want to go.
Yep. We're well, Let's Wrestle's doing a show. Actually, this Saturday we're going to we're going to be at a different venue, but the one that we were using was very nice, and it was right down the road from where I used to live, and that's great. But I moved north to near the old original Let's Wrestle venue, which was the original Limitless venue.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be here." It's like you guys picked the place near where I used to live. Now that I live near the old place, thanks.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. It's like, great. Now I got to figure out how to get all the way back down there.
Oh man.
But yeah, with Limitless and Let's, it's been so cool seeing Limitless evolve. Like I was there from the very first show, because when Randy was putting it together, he asked me to be his sound technician, because I had been doing it for IWE. Like when the first Limitless show happened, he even made like announcement cards for the referees and myself, and that was so cool to like get that type of recognition, because he had known me for a couple of years at this point. And seeing it grow from what it was to where it is now, it's insane. It's the new standard, I feel, for Maine wrestling, because for the longest time, Maine wrestling didn't have the best reputation. I was even told that, if some Maine guys came down, if it wasn't a good match, it was called a main event. And it's good to see that with the passion that Randy has for pro wrestling and that entire roster, the reputation for Maine has changed and has become a destination for a lot of people, where it is on their bucket list. It's not just some place in New England. It's one of the places to be. It's one of the big places in New England. And it will always be my home, no matter what, no matter how far I go, where I go. Limitless will always be my home, because they've given me a lot of opportunities to show off what I can do, and they really have helped boost everybody that's gone through there. It's like after a while with Limitless, we had Let's Wrestle, and Let's Wrestle kind of helped feed the new crop of Limitless dudes. Because if you look at Mortar, Alec Price, Rhett Bison, Ava, Becca, like everybody came through Let's, did the road, and also ended up making it to constantly being on Limitless. And Let's is like how we used to call it, it's like the NXT for Limitless wrestling. Like if Limitless is WWE, Let's is the NXT. Because like I mentioned with Mortar and Alec, they had, I think, the best feud in Let's Wrestle. It was just a blood feud. They just wanted to outdo each other, and it ended in, I don't know if it was a tables match or a hardcore match. I forget which. But it was just seeing them grow with each match was insane, and seeing them grow and where they are now it's even better. It showed like the hard work and dedication with that kind of Limitless kind of inspired with everybody. I feel like I just rambled on. I was trying to
No. You're good. You're good. But isn't it cool to like see that, like, where the growth of people, and especially like, you know, it's not the same thing. You're getting like different, you know, each match, if it's kind of like a series of matches of a story that you're telling, and just to like watch them evolve and to watch where they are now is insane.
Yeah, like Danger Kid posted a picture of his first match in Limitless. It was the third Limitless show we ever did. He was in a 4-way tag team match, teaming up with Alexander Lee. I had to wear his shirt. And seeing how far Danger Kid and Nagro have come too, because I've known them since they first started training. And it makes me happy seeing how far everyone's come.
Yeah.
I could go on about everybody. I could literally go on about everyone.
The power of wrestling. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's why we love it here. It's amazing. All right. So who's been your favorite to ring announce?
Oh, my favorite to ring announce. There's quite a few. Rip's always one. Because he Rip City, or downtown Rip City, he went up to me one day and was like, I want you to come up with where I'm coming from. I'm like, okay. And I knew how much he loved Kiss and rock, so I said Rip City, Detroit, Michigan. And then he's like, how about just Rip City? I'm like, okay. And then he changed it to downtown Rip City. So Rip's always fun. MSP's always fun. Oh, God. Bobby Orlando.
Mom.
Oh, God. I love
Mom.
Bobby Orlando.
Hi, Mom.
Because you feel the, like, just the joy he brings to a wrestling crowd. It's infectious.
Yeah.
I got to actually cross these ones off my bucket list. I've done Kevin Koo a number of times, and he was always awesome. But I was very happy I got to do Violence is Forever, because they've been on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a lot of fun, because for the longest time I ran it by Kevin, and then I ran it by Dom when I met him. Was adding Peace is temporary, but Violence is forever to their thing. Because I'm like, this just works. I felt like it worked, and they liked it. So they were they were great. I feel like I'm missing some.
So many.
Yeah, and I've been doing this for so long. Like, Alexander Lee, I've come up with so many things for him, and he's come up with so many things. He's one of my best friends in wrestling. He's my wrestle dad. So like I came up with the beautiful bald bastard of Bangor for him, and it stuck. And when it was the triple threat match at the first Vacation Land Cup, he told that to Rich, and Rich was like, I like the alliteration. He's like, Ethan came up with that. So he was always so much fun to do. I have to stop myself tearing up anytime I announce him, because like the last few times he's been at Limitless, he's got such a big pop.
Yeah.
And he deserves it. Like, he's so good and deserves the recognition.
Right.
So like I have to stop myself, like, nope, can't tear up, can't cry.
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. So many people. All right. So has there been anything like that, like a fun whisper in your ear, like maybe like before, like when somebody comes into the ring and maybe they'll whisper like something fun, like maybe like they'll tell you to try to break you, or, something that sticks out.
Funny you mentioned breaking me. This was in the early days of me ring announcing. But when I was ring announcing for IWE, there was this tag team era of Violence, Rob Marsh and Bloody Bill Vox. And I was always worried Marsh was going to say something, because he's just naturally funny, that would just make me break. And Bill Vox, like, as I'm worried about Marsh circling me about thinking he's going to say something, you have Bill Vox standing right here, like, close to my head, just staring daggers trying to get me to break two. So I like, they always tried to make me break. I don't think they did, or if they did, it was very little. But like, they always tried to get me. Oh, I feel like I had one recently. Somebody whispered something in my ear.
The sweet nothings into your ear.
when it was AG and Delmy at Grinds, he said from Dangertown, USA, right outside of East Hampton, Massachusetts. Like, that was sprung on me. This one was a mess up, but I'm kind of glad it was a good mess up. When I announced Dirty Dango, I announced him from Portland, and then he stopped me and he said Orlando, Florida. So I had to re-say from Orlando, Florida. Everybody hated him. Like, they booed him because, like, you can't, like, denounce, like, that you're from Maine in Maine.
Yeah.
Because, like, they just booed him. I'm like, well, I'm kind of glad I messed up then. I feel like there have been more. But I can't remember.
Okay. All right. That's okay. All right. So is there something that you would like to see more of in people's introductions or their entrances? Anything that comes to mind?
One thing, and this is just so I feel like everybody can be on the same page, because I use IWTV to find info on who I'm announcing beforehand, because I like being prepared. Because in case I get to a venue late or someone there gets there late, I don't want to have to rush, right. And I want to make sure everybody's info is correct. I hate when people don't announce weights, because I feel like that is an important part of the introduction. Because especially if, the match, it's a big guy and a little guy. Say you announce one dude at, like, 280 and his opponent is 215, and the 215 dude just squatted the 280 guy, like, that adds so much to the match, because you've just said this dude is heavier than this dude. Mm-hmm. And seeing that physical feat, it adds so much more now that you know the numbers of it. Like, right. This guy just squatted 280 pounds and he weighs 215. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I'd like to see. Fun locations to help you stand out. A lot of people already do it, but I always think, like, a fun little location can help you stand out from everybody else. Like, AG has Dangertown, USA. Rip has Downtown Rip City. MSP has Vacation Land. Where, like, if you don't know that Maine is called Vacation Land, it just sounds like that could be anywhere.
Right.
And same with Dangertown, USA and Downtown Rip City. Like, those can be anywhere, but they also add to the character.
Right.
So, like, something fun that, like, if you do choose, like, a real location, like, obviously that's great. And if you can have a little fun with that real location, even better, because it adds a little bit more character to you.
I think so too. It's fun. It's something, like, different, because what makes you stand out, right? These are things that we always, like, look for in wrestlers. So, like, you want something to stand out. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
So who is on your bucket list going forward?
Going forward on my bucket list, Kid Bandit is on my bucket list.
So nice.
I've never had a chance to meet Kid Bandit, but I would love to and announce them, because, like, I follow them on Twitter, and just the fact that Kid Bandit is very, like, openly a nerd, and I love that more people are in wrestling. It just immediately wants me to gravitate more towards them. It's like, you're a nerd too, like, sweet, like, we have more than just wrestling in common.
Yeah.
Because, like, I only know so much about wrestling, but, like, you get me onto video games, I'm golden.
Oh.
So Kid Bandit, I feel like I definitely had a lot more, and now that I'm on the spot, I can't think.
Usually how it goes.
One that will always be on my list is Rhino, because I've just always liked Rhino, just his intensity, especially in ECW. Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie. I feel like I had so many more.
Yeah.
I really need to actually write down a physical list.
You should. Right?
And,
Like all the wrestlers are putting out dream lists. You should put out your dream because you never know. Maybe it'll happen. You put it out there, right? You put it out into the
yes.
clouds and then, like you're manifesting, right? Is that like the thing that everybody's saying like this year of 2023? Manifest it.
Yeah,
So if you physically put it out there, then it's going to
it could
happen.
it could happen.
It could happen. I feel like the
Yeah.
way that it is, and that's the beauty of the indies too, because you can have like those retired, WWE people or somebody from like AEW, and like that can happen. Anything can happen in the indies.
Oh yeah.
So I love that so much. So, all right, let's do some fan tweets here. So I have one from Good Cop, Bad Cop. He's in the chat. What's going on? So he said, with Ethan Scott being an anagram of hat contest, if there was one open to anyone on the indies, who would win the best hat category?
So I saw that, and I had to think because I'm like, I don't think many wrestlers really wear hats to the ring. It's usually like a hood on their vest, or they wear a mask, or it's something. But I can't think of many people who wear hats, except for one in Maine that stands out, the Donkey Boy Bandit, because you can't not look at this dude with this bright orange cowboy hat. Donkey Boy Bandit, he wins. Like,
There's a lot though. Manders, right?
Manders.
You got Teddy Goods.
Yup.
Now Kylon King's coming out with the matching gear with the hat this Thursday.
Okay.
See, like there's peeps. There's peeps. You gotta look for them.
Now that I didn't mention Manders, I feel like he's probably gonna be one of like, you didn't mention my hat, and I'm gonna just die. God.
Shout out to Manders. But yeah,
Yes,
no.
Manders is great.
This was
But
a
yeah,
good question.
for me, it's got to be Donkey because just a bright orange hat.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be wrestling at Let's, and he's on a team with LS Spartano, so a masked Spartan, and Sebastian Seabass Finn. He's wearing a fishing hat. Like they all got great headgear.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, see, Manders is a great call. See.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch. All right, let's move on to another fan tweet. This one's from Billy. He gave, I think, 2 questions. So he said, if you could land with a gig with any indie company, who would it be? That's the first one.
You know what? Because I went on IWTV and I just threw this show on, I gotta say C4. Because their crowd is just electric and passionate, and I just love that about a wrestling crowd. Like, too many times I've seen crowds just sit there
Yep.
with like they're sitting on their hands, but
Oh,
these
that's
guys
crazy.
it drives me nuts, especially when there's a really good match happening. Like, come on, make some noise. Like, but C4, from what I saw, like their fan base is electric, and their ring announcer's great. So I doubt I'd ever get a gig up there. But like,
You
if
never
I
know.
had to pick,
No. Manifesting. We're manifesting.
okay,
We're manifesting.
if I had to pick, I'd say C4.
Yeah.
The C4 is like, and I've heard stories from like MSP going up there, and it just seems like a blast.
So you gotta like sneak in the car. I know like Alec will probably be in there. Maybe you go in the trunk or something like that.
I'll be in the trunk like, hey guys, can we pull over? I got a piss. They'll be like, what the fuck are you doing back there? It's like, I only live down the block from you guys. Like, I snuck in.
I brought snacks. I brought snacks. Oh, okay, so favorite snack on a road trip. There you go.
Just because it's hard to find the big boxes unless I go to the grocery store, Pepper Jack Cheez-Its.
Oh.
They're so good. They crumble the most too, which sucks, but they're so good.
Yeah. What's up, Matt, in the chat? What's going on? Thanks for joining. Okay, so if the WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and New Japan were all bidding for the services of Ethan Scott, who would win your service and why? Ooh, good question, Billy.
I narrowed it down to 2. Honestly, any of them would be great. I'm gonna go AEW because I've always said, like, even if I did, like, say they were looking for a new ring announcer for Dark, I would gladly do that because I'd get to work with like all these amazing wrestlers, learn from all these different minds on like just wrestling in general, but also get to see people just come through and see like who stands out the most, who the crowd really reacts to. So I definitely pick AEW. If not AEW, I'd go Ring of Honor.
Oh.
Because there's so much history and legacy with Ring of Honor. Like having my name attached to that would just be so cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Billy. All right, so here, let's do a question that's very dear to my heart on this podcast, Wrestling with Positivity. Again, if you guys are not familiar with it, I usually incorporate this into every interview that I do, but I also have videos on the channel as well. So I like to go on the positive side with wrestling. So is there anything that, you know, you can think of, whether it's something like maybe a wrestler's done for you, maybe a fan's done for you, maybe something that you've done for a fan, maybe something you've done for a wrestler or a promoter, you know, anything that, you know, screams out to you that we wouldn't normally know about unless like you shared the story?
So this will always stick out to me because like if I need to keep remembering this because I'm my own worst critic. I always think I'm the worst if I make like one single mistake or if I mess up. I always think I'm the worst. But there was one time when we did there was this festival down in southern Maine. I'm not even going to try to attempt it because it's in French and I can't speak French. And on the show, Ethan Page was there. And I was announcing as usual, and I get out of the ring. And as I'm walking over to the sound table, he looks at me, he goes, "You're doing a good job." So the fact that Ethan Page said I was doing a good job, like, well, like it's always stuck with me. Like it just like as soon as he gave me the thumbs up, like you're doing great, I like glowed. I'm like, man, even if I mess up tonight, like nothing can beat that because like Ethan Page said I was doing good.
Aw, it's the little things, right? Right?
Yeah.
This is the little things, and it's always like a great memory to like have. So, oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that for you. So, all right. So, who do you think has the best entrance?
Oh man. Are we talking just indies or just overall in wrestling?
Let's do indies.
Indies?
Yeah.
There's so many good ones. Like you got Waves and Curls that just get everybody to sing their music, and then they have the confetti poppers. You have Bobby, same thing, gets everyone to sing the music. And I remember at a Blitz show, there was a seat, like just one section of the crowd all had the little Bobby Juniors, and they were bobbing to the music. So it was like Al Snow's styrofoam heads, but it was little tiny goats in the crowd, which was great.
Man, the fans like really get like involved with like a lot, especially like open. Like
yes.
brick city boys, they throw the bricks at them. Like it's
I
not
saw
just
that one
streamers
time.
anymore. It's not just streamers.
MSP have a great entrance because if you watch Danger Kid is singing or lip singing the song the entire time and acting it out, and it's so much fun. No matter how many times I watch them entrance, it's so fun to watch. This just shows how many times they've come out and they've memorized that song.
I love them. He's all face, Danger Kid. Like I always tell, like especially when he's wrestling, and I have all these photos, like when I'm at shows, especially like Grind. Like he's the man of many faces. Like
DK's expressions are fantastic, like and just projects so well. Always happens to be when DK's in pain, but it's still really well. And I like at the Pug show, Ava was just kicking and chopping DK, and DK sitting there in pain and just looks up and goes, "We hugged." Like we hugged, and it killed all of us. I'm sitting next to Coral and we're just dying laughing.
Oh man. Oh jeez, let me just fix this camera because it's being a booty. Okay, there we go. That's so funny. Yeah, he's too much. I can't. They're so good. So good. Well,
so good.
Okay, so like, you know, like maybe like, you know, there's a bunch of like fans that come in here, and of course, like, you know, we're all learn about like independent wrestling. So in your thoughts, you know, since you've been working so many different places, who are some, like, you know, we're in 2023, what are some names that you think, you know, stand out, you know, that people should get on board with?
People that stand out to me, Joseph Alexander from T2T, like wrestles Grind all the time. So good. Such a good wrestler. Like him and Manders killed it and like even like the size difference, because Manders is a big dude, but Joseph didn't let that stop him and just hit. I think he does have like a collegiate background,
Mhm.
and he must, because it shows in his ring work, and he's so good. Um, uh, Angelo Carter, also from T2T, like I haven't seen too many of his matches just because I just haven't. But teaming up with Logan, his chops, like they were so loud, and there's just a force behind them.
Yeah.
So those two, Desmond Cole as well. Like the dude has been doing so good since he showed up in Limitless. Like like his match with Alec at our first show of 2023. I said it was like match of the year contender. Like it's gonna be, because you have just two guys who are so good, and they're kind of similar to each other.
Yeah.
Like not too much, but they do remind me of each other a little bit. Who else has been standing out?
A lot of great names.
There's a lot of great names. It's a lot of young talent that's just been putting in the hard work.
Yeah.
And it shows. I feel like now, since like we mentioned earlier, how like we're spoiled with how much wrestling there is out there, you really gotta stand out.
Yeah.
And so many people are stepping up to the challenge, because after when everybody started running shows again, there were a lot of spots that were open, and everybody had to like really prove like, hey, I belong here. I'm fighting to be here. And I feel like with even more promotions popping up, they're fighting to be the first ones on the first show, so that way they can stand out. So those three are three that come to mind that people need to keep an eye on.
And all three have been on this podcast, so if you're not familiar, you want to learn a little bit about them, go back. I mean, Joseph and Angela were just recently on in December, so it's the most recent interview. Desmond Cole, oh man, it's so nuts how like I've watched. Like I remember when I first saw him at the Sean Henderson promotion, and I was like, who is this guy? Why don't they're like, oh, he's from New York? I was like, how is it that I live in New York? I was like, and I don't know this guy, and then he just blew up. He went into injury, and then he came back, and he just like blew the hell up.
Speaking of New York guys, I don't know why I completely forgot, but Gabriel Sky and Tristan Ty have been showing up every time they've come up to Maine, and I'm so glad they're announced for our next show, because like that first match with Bobby and Bryce, oh my god, like I was showing coworkers just like, hey, you just want to see a man get his head kneed off? Like that flying knee to Bobby was just the monkey flip into the running knee. God, like I showed coworkers and they're cringing. They're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Cause they could do it," and they did. But they've been killing it too. I want to see them everywhere. I'd love to see them in Grind, to be honest. I think they'd be such a great addition.
Oh man, the versus like Rip and Perry would be fun. Or
yes, even as like, because I know they wrestle singles too. So whether it's like as above the rest or by themselves, I want to see them in a Grind ring.
I feel like I got to bring them back as a tag team together onto this podcast, since I've had them separately on here. And Gabriel, I know like forever, but the perfect bridge. Okay. Like, oh, Ethan said it at like one of the last grind shows that he saw me at, and he was like, I see a bridge and I just instantly think of you now.
Yes, like I do. Like anytime because like I'm a fan of a perfect bridge too. Like just because I trained to wrestle, it's hard. It's so hard because like you just like if you just try to do it without practicing or knowing how to, you're gonna fall over. Yeah. Aiden Agro also has a really good one. Like anytime I've seen him do his Northern Lights, it's always so good.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, it's just so funny. Gabriel Sky was actually said to me, he goes, this is your fault. He goes, now everybody's doing it. Kylon yells at me too, and he's like, Tiff, that's my thing. And I was like I'm like, sorry, I pop. And then I was like, you get a little effort if you try to make me pop for the perfect bridge. So like, if you're doing it for me, like kudos to you. And Travis Huckabee, man. Travis Huckabee's another one that has that.
Oh yeah.
That gorgeous bridge. I can't. I could sit here and make an episode of perfect bridges. They're just
gotta do a countdown of like at the end of the year, the best bridges of 2023.
That would be good. It'd be very hard though. There's a lot. There really, you didn't even like at one point I never saw it. And now like within the last year it like popped up huge because there's only like certain people that was actually doing it. And now it's like everybody's freaking doing it. But you're right. I feel like I'm going to have to like, okay, 2023 top 10 perfect bridge.
And then you have to get him a little statue with a legitimate bridge on it, just like a stone bridge. Just a trophy with a stone bridge on it.
Travis showed me like the sign. It was like sign language for bridge. Like on one of the Wrestleville vlogs that I did. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like that's sign language for bridge. I'm like, "Oh." It's like so good. So good. I love Travis. So many great people. All right. So I have one final question for you. If you guys have any other questions, feel free, drop them into the chat. So I always like to end, the interviews off, for, career advice because, I not only do I have fans that like reach out to me, I actually have parents that reach out to me, like they'll look for schools, some recommendations. So anything that you like, some great advice that you can give those people, maybe they want to get into ring announcing, maybe they want to get into wrestling, anything.
So I'll start off with the wrestling bit. I'd love, because I want to get back into training at some point. It's just time, money, it's not in the cards right now. But when you get into training, you learn from your mistakes. You're gonna mess up. It's gonna happen. But don't focus so much on your mistakes. Learn how to grow from your mistakes. And you're gonna be your own worst critic. You just gotta silence that voice and silence the self-doubt, because when you finally get something down, it's gonna feel so good. Like I remember I was learning how to do a spear because I like Rhino, so I want to learn how to do a spear, and I messed up the first time, and Alexander Lee was like, "Nope, get up, we're doing it again." I did the second time, and it came out good. And when you see yourself improve, it's gonna mean a lot. So like all the negative voices, you just gotta kind of not listen to them because they're gonna hold you back more than anything. For those wanting to get into ring announcing, find the ring announcers, because I actually had somebody ask me this, and I just realized I'm horrible when it comes to getting back to people. I feel like I accidentally let this person on red, but I did answer them a bit, and then I forgot. But I mentioned to them, find the ring announcers that stand out to you, and find out and realize why they stand out to you, and learn from that. Like, what do they do as a ring announcer that drew you into them to begin with? Was it just how they carried themselves, how they did inflictions, anything like that? And when you find out what drew them to you, see how you can do that. Because watching Randy and Rich, like, they carried themselves and made everyone sound like a main eventer. Whether it was the opening match, the middle of the show, or the main event, everybody sounded like a big deal. And that's what I try to do because I've seen them do it. And it helps make the show, I feel like it like a bit, it helps everybody out. Because you have because I've had people be like, I wish you were on this show, because they like how my announcing style, because it makes them, I guess it kind of gives them like a little boost, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for ring announcing, find out who you like, realize why you like them, and then see if you can do it. See if you can not copy what they do, but find those traits and make it your own.
I think that's great advice. Definitely great advice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of people that always reach out to me. So thank you for the advice. Hopefully that helps somebody out in the wrestling world. So
I hope so.
all right, so let's talk about what's coming up. I got some flyers up here. If you guys are listening to the audio, you can go back, have some flyers here. So so this weekend, right? You said Let's Wrestle is back.
Yep, Let's Wrestle is back with revamped. We are also working with the Maine Skateboard Association, doing a fundraiser with them.
This is not going to be live, right? No, right?
No, this will not be on IWTV live, but it will be on IWTV eventually. announced. I'm just going to give a couple matches. Ace Romero's defending the Limitless Wrestling Championship against Connor Murphy. World Class Channing Thomas is taking on former WWE superstar, the Vampire Warrior Gangrel. I mentioned there's a trios match. Also, Joseph Alexander is going one-on-one with Aiden Agro. I almost said Alexander Lee. No, Aiden Agro. Alexander Lee will be facing Jake Hess in his final match before he deploys because he's in the military. It's going to be a real fun show. It's going to be in Brewer, and the crowds in Brewer are always nuts, and the Let's Wrestle crowds are always nuts.
Wait, good cop, bad cop goes looking on posters carefully to see if anyone has a hat. They didn't.
No hats on that one.
No hats. I love it. And Grind is coming back, which we love. Again, that won't be live. They tape to premiere on IWTV as well. Unfortunately, I will not be at that show. I have tickets for something else, so I'm sad, but I'll be there in spirit. If Mike is on it, I think Mike got announced for it, right? Mike Skyros?
Yes.
Can
He
you
got
make him
announced.
sad?
I'm sure that somebody will help make him sad in your absence. I'm sure. I'm sure Mike will be sad.
Can you just announce him as hashtag make Mike sad?
Oh. See, it's easy for you to ask me to do that because if I do it, he's just going to look at me and just want to punch me in the face. And then I'll be sad because I just got punched in the face by Mike Skyros.
No, you can be we could clip this and, we could be like, look, play Tiff.
It was Tiff's fault. But yep, Grind for Overkill 2023. I think was it Ryan Gallione and Perry Von Vicious was just announced today.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check though, because
there was a couple. They've been announcing random people that are gonna be there.
Yep, main event's gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just double check.
Ichiban was on there too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ichiban. There's no hats on the poster,
No,
but
it's
Delmy
fine.
is wearing a tiara.
Does
so
that count as a hat? I don't know.
It's headwear.
Do we count that as a hat? Good cop, bad cop, because that's our God Queen, and I feel like it should be, because she's a queen.
Yes. But yeah, Perry Von Vicious, Ryan Gallione was announced. Scrolling through Twitter, trying to find more.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking Brian Keith versus Jay Freddy.
That's gonna be good.
Brian Keith, him and I had a little conversation at the Limitless show that he was on, and I announced because he was drinking some Liquid Death, so we bonded over that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. One of the reasons I like going down to Grind is there's a 7-Eleven. We don't have really many in Maine, at least in this part of Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I go there, we stop there, and I always grab at least a couple cans of Liquid Death before the show. It's just water, but it's so good.
Aww.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely check out these two promotions. So great. Yes. I mean, again, there's so many. We talked about so many wonderful promotions, but that's where you can see Ethan. Go say hi. Buy him a pierogi if you see him at the screen.
Yes. Or
what else?
Liquid Death if you see me at a show.
Okay, so if you know you're going to see Ethan, bring him a Liquid Death.
Yes.
On this podcast, sometimes it works, Landon. So I actually got a message the other day that they wanted to bring Landon Hill a Twix. And I think I had landed on 6 months ago. And he's like, but I remember I think 2 weeks later after the podcast, he texts me and he's like, Tiff, you're never going to believe it. He goes, somebody actually brought me a Twix. And then Ricky Smokes was another one I had him on the podcast. And we were talking about wine. And I was like, well, what kind of wine? He was like, red wine. And then, of course, he tweeted at me and he was like, somebody bought me wine. I was like, seriously? I was like, so we put it out there, but we're manifesting. So
Yes.
some Liquid Death,
It murders your thirst and heals my throat after announcing.
I love it. I love it so much. So so tell everybody where they can follow you, support you, all that fun stuff.
So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EthanScott207. It's kind of it. I mostly use Twitter and Instagram, but Facebook's not too bad. I tend to remember to use that every now and then.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on here. It was such a fun chat with you, and
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. So I hope that I will see you soon. I know like everybody keeps asking me. I get like nervous coming up around this time of the year with the snow and the rain and all that fun stuff. But you'll see me soon.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yes.
see me soon. So, but again, guys, please go give Ethan some support. Make sure you follow all his social medias, all that fun stuff. Support all those amazing indie promotions as well. So a lot of them you can get on IWTV. So it's only $10 a month. Can't go wrong with that. So, but yeah. So with that being said, next week I will be back with Max Smashmaster. That should be fun. We're gonna talk about his new promotion, Rad Pro Wrestling, and I'm in the talks with Teddy Good. So I'm not sure if he's gonna come on Monday. We're working that out. So definitely make sure you're subscribed and follow me on all the social media platforms for the Indie Wrestling Corner as well. So, but you guys know the drill. Stay safe. Support independent wrestling. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.
Enough is enough.